Hi, my name's Jamie and welcome to this video tutorial. So in this tutorial we'll be going over how to rig a basic arm in Maya. First we'll create a simple joint chain and then we'll learn how to add controls in which can be easily animated without touching the joints themselves. So let's get started. So here we have a basic arm model and we'll just get started by rigging this. So we'll create a joint chain using Maya's skeleton tool. So go into the top view, grab the joint tool, default settings will be fine, place 3 joints, one at the shoulder, one at the forearm and one at the wrist. Hit enter, then go into the front view and drag this up, hit F to zoom in. Okay, so now we'll align the joint. So as you can see, if we were just to align it by dragging in a Z-axis using the rotate channels, that gives us a value, which isn't what we want, as we want to have it zeroed out. So change that bit to 0. Instead we'll hit Ctrl 8 to get to the attribute editor, then we'll go to the joint orient channels. So here if you hold down Ctrl and the middle mouse button, dragging the Z-axis, this will allow you to easily align the joint chain. Then make sure you're in object mode. You can do this by pressing the W key, hold down W and the left mouse button. You can drag to object mode. Then just drag down in the X-axis until you line the joint up correctly with the crease of the elbow. And then we can adjust its orient again in the Z-axis, then simply drag down the wrist. Okay, so there we go. Right, so next we'll quickly rename these joints, go into perspective, make sure X-ray joints is on so you can see it. We'll use a prefix of SK. Change that to SK_L shoulder, copy the name, paste, rename that to forearm, and finally we won't be skinning to this bone, as in this example the arm doesn't have a hand, so we'll change this to end_L wrist. Okay, so once that's done, we'll just check the orientation of the joint. So select the object and we'll add this to a new display layer, change it to template. We'll rename this to arm_geo for geometry. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll check the orientation of the joints. So select the root, then we'll type in to the mill tab, select -high. This means it will select the whole hierarchy. Hit enter, then we'll go to display, transform display, local rotation axes. Okay, so as you can see, this shows the whole joint chain. So as you can see, if we were to rotate in the y-axis we get a negative value. This is generally okay as long as the joint chain is consistent, but I like to have it move in a positive value when the arm is raised forward. So we can quickly change that. So just select the forearm, hit Shift P to unparent, and we'll go back to the root joint, the shoulder joint. Go to the attribute editor, and then the X-axis will just hit 90. What this will do is it will flip it around. So now if we were to rotate that, we'll be moving in a positive value in both axes for raising the arm in front and raising the arm to the side. Okay, so now what we'll do is Shift P again for this joint, then we simply just parent it back up. Now for an end joint in Maya, when you set the orient to 0, it will automatically set it to the parent's orientation, which is handy. So that's a quick method for doing that. So we'll parent this one and we'll set that back to 0. There we go. So now we get nice positive values when we rotate in the z-axis and the y. Okay, so now we can, another way to select a hierarchy is to hold the right mouse button, select hierarchy, then we can go back into display, transform display, local rotation axes. Okay, so now we're ready to skin the arm. So to do this, we'll go up here, make sure it's set to select by name. If you can't see this, you've probably got it hidden by one of the fields here. So type in SK or whatever prefix you used, followed by an asterisk, and hit enter. This will automatically select all the joints with that prefix. Then shift select the object, the arm in this case, go to skin, bind skin, smooth bind options. So for this we'll use selected joints because we only want it to be skinned to the joints that we've selected. If we were to pick joint hierarchy, it would automatically skin to all of the joints in the whole hierarchy, which is not what we want. So set that to selected joints. And for the bind method we'll use heat map. Closest distance works fine too, but I tend to get better results with heat map, and it generally reduces the amount of weight painting that you need to do. For skinning method, classic linear will do fine for this example, although you get better deformations at the elbow, parts where the mesh is likely to collapse. You can sort that out with dual quaternion, but for this we'll just use linear. For normalised weights we'll use interactive. Max influences, 4 should be fine, won't really matter in this tutorial. So once we've done that, we can bind the skin. Okay, so we'll have some weight painting work to do now. As you can see, the actual mesh is hardly influenced by the elbow. The shoulder will work fine though. So set that back to 0. Okay, so now we select a mesh. We can go to skin, edit smooth skin, paint skin weights tool options. I like to use a hard brush, so set that to solid brush. Move down here, set the operation to replace and the value to 1. So this means that when we paint here, it means that these points, these vertices, will only be affected by the forearm joint. So that's what we want. So just paint a few of these. That should be enough. And maybe just go in and do this set of vertices as well. Okay, so that will give better results, but it will still need tweaked, as you can see. As you can see, this is the result of us missing a vertex. So we can easily go back into paint weights tool and fix that, which is hard to select. If you have trouble with that, an actually easier way is just to go into vertex mode, select the vertex, and head over to my component editor and make sure you're in the smooth skins tab, and here you can manually just set to 1 for the forearm, and that takes care of that. So while the arm's in this pose, we can get to work and skin in the other parts of the mesh. So I actually like using the component editor for basic skinning like this. So a handy tip is to select an edge ring by first selecting an edge, then shift double click, then if you hold control in the right mouse button, select 2 vertices, and that will select the whole ring of vertices around that area. And here you can see the influences in the smooth skins tab in the component editor. So what we can do is we can actually click these and drag the weight value, which is a nice easy way to fix any issues. So we can bring back volume in the mesh this way very easily. It's more of a technical way of improving the skinning, but it's quite enjoyable because it's easier sometimes instead of trying to paint weights at these creases. So you could set these to a precise value if you like, but there's not really any need. So just spend a bit of time going through this. It's a handy way. And really it's just a matter of taking your time until you get a decent result that you're happy with. Okay, so for this one I might just leave it here. It's not perfect, but it'll certainly do the job for now. It's much better than what it was before, so we'll set that back to 0. Okay, so now we'll get to the fun part, which is adding controls. So to do this, what we can do is we can use NURBS controllers or a simple NURBS circle. So you can access that in the curves shelf layout, or you can go to create NURBS primitives and circle. So that will place a circle at the origin. So this will be our shoulder controller. So what we can do is can rename this to CNTRL _L _ shoulder. We'll copy that name, hit enter. We'll duplicate this by Control D. Now we'll call this forearm. Okay, so if we head to the outliner, we'll select the shoulder joint again. You can see here if you go to the history underneath inputs, you can change the shape of this if you like, so you could get a hexagon or just a simple rectangle if you want. But what we will do is we'll keep this to cubic so it's a nice circle shape. So select the shoulder. We can safely delete history on this, so go to delete by type history. And then what we'll do is select it, and then we'll Control G to group the object. This will automatically create a group that will be at the origin. So what we can do is we can paste in the name of the control _GRP for group. The reason we're creating a group is because we'll need this so we can safely align the control to the joint. Because for example, if we were to use the forearm here as an example, right, if we were to parent this by selecting the forearm joint, hit P, then 0 out the values to snap it, so you can see that the orientation is the exact same as the joint. But the problem with this is we can't just freeze the transformations. So for example, if we hit Shift P to unparent it, you can see it's still kept the same rotation, but if we were to freeze transformations here, you can see it froze off the orientation back to the world. So as you can see, it's pointing in the same direction as the world axis. So this is where we'll use groups. So as you've seen, when we have it parented to something, it sets the child's attributes to 0. So this is what we'll do to use a group, by using a group. So what we'll do is we'll hit Shift P again, we'll reset this back to 0. and we'll start with the shoulder control. So select the shoulder group, then what we'll do is we'll shift select the shoulder joint, we'll hit P, make sure it's a group, hit 0. Then what we can do is hit shift P to unparent it, so you see it's keeping the same orientation as the joint here. Okay, so next you'll see that the control is nicely zeroed out. Okay, so now what we could do is actually, we'll do this for the forearm as well. So select the forearm, control G to create a group. We'll call this L forearm underscore group. Okay, and then we'll snap this using the parenting technique. So shift select the joint, hit P, 0 out the translate values, translate and rotate that is, then shift P, and this has all of the orientation of the joint. Okay, so now what we can do is we can select both controls, hit F8 to go into component mode, and we'll select all of their CVs, then hit the rotate tool. We'll just rotate this so we can make a nicer shape. When you're in component mode and you rotate something, it doesn't affect the actual transform rotation of the object, so keep that in mind. So effectively we could move this shoulder control further down the chain, scale it up a bit, and you'll see when we go back into object mode it still has perfect orientation. So we'll just resize these to fit the mesh better. That should do the trick. Shouldn't have to spend too long on things like that, but it's handy to do to make the mesh look, to make the rig look more appealing. Okay, so once we've got our controls aligned properly, we can now add in orient constraints to control the actual joints. So we'll start with the shoulder, so select the control L shoulder, that's not the group, just the standard curve. Shift select the shoulder joint and go to constrain orient options. Now here you can use maintain offset. You would only use this if the orientations are different between the joint and the control, but in this case we already aligned them perfectly, so there's no need to do that. So keep this switched off, and all the other settings are fine. Make sure you're constraining all axes, so hit add, and as you can see the orient constraint is stored here in the shape node of the controller, of the joint. So you can see the offset values are 0. This is because we aligned it perfectly using that group node. So in other words, if it had a different orientation, we would have values in the offset axes here. So keep that in mind. So now we'll be able to move this fine, and we can safely zero it out. So another thing we'll do is quickly, we can do this in both controls, we'll get rid of both translate, scale and visibility channels. So right click, lock and hide selected, as we won't be needing those. And next we'll orient constrain the forearm. So select the forearm control, shift select the joint and orient constraint again. So here you can see it works completely fine. Now as you can see, when we're moving the shoulder control, the forearm control isn't going to automatically follow it because we haven't told it to. So we need to place it under the hierarchy of the shoulder in order to get this effect. To do this correctly, all we need to do is select the forearm group node and parent that directly under the shoulder shape, the actual shoulder control. So to do this you can just select the group in the shoulder, hit hit P. So here you can see we have a group node in between in the hierarchy here. So now if we were to move the shoulder, you'll see the full thing follows along and it all works correctly. We can bend the elbow too if we like. Move it in different directions and it all holds together, which is nice. So a lot of this is just knowing how to, what to parent under in the correct hierarchy to make sure everything follows along okay. So to finish up, we'll just group this. This will be like a master group, so we'll call that controls group. We'll group the skeleton, that'll be skeleton group. And for the geometry, we'll group this, we'll call it arm underscore geo underscore group. And then what we can do is we can group all of these and call it arm, L underscore arm. Just call it L underscore arm. So that's like the master group, and it contains all these nice hierarchies. Just rename that to L underscore arm. So as you can see, that's a great way to stay organised, so you can easily find and solve any problems that you have. So that pretty much wraps it up for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this. This was mainly aimed at beginners. Just a simple way to add controls in case you were wondering how to do that. You can also recolour these controls if you select one of them and hit Ctrl A. Go to the attribute editor, make sure you're in the shape node. If you changed the colour under the transform node, then this would automatically recolour anything below, parented under it in the hierarchy as well, and you might not always want that, so go to the shape node, object display, join overrides, enable overrides. We'll set the colour. Normally you use blue for the left and red for the right, so we can change those. Do the same again for the forearm, but you can use any colour you want, doesn't matter. And there we go. If you want, you could hide the skeleton. As you can see, we can move the arm completely fine. So in a later tutorial we'll be redoing this, only I'll attach a hand and I'll show you how to rig the hand and how to rig the fingers too, and set up custom attributes to get a nice finger curl. So I'm looking forward to that. So that wraps up for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and stay tuned for the next tutorial, which should be out very soon. So thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.